There's a story told of a chassid who went into the Rebbe and presented a question, was dealing with a very, very serious, life-threatening issue with his daughter. She was Rahman al-Islam diagnosed with the worst of the worst. And the doctors were giving very, very slim chances for her survival. And there was a big question whether she should have an operation to remove the tumor or they should do other methods. The doctors were skeptical about both, but he would no way would make that decision without consulting with the Rebbe. And this wasn't a simple situation. This was a daughter that they waited many years, which is a story in itself, how she was born with the bracha of the Rebbe after many years of the marriage. And finally here they had this bracha. And now this great challenge that they were facing now of a real life-threatening situation. A Yechidus was arranged, and he comes into Yechidus. It was the end of the month of Adar. And he begins crying and putting up a whole scene and asking the Rebbe, and he didn't even have a chance to express his real question. He was just talking about his agony, his pain, his suffering. How can this happen? And he's asking for the Rebbe for guidance and a bracha. And the Rebbe just looks up and says, it's the month of Adar. It's a time of an ahapichu. May it all be transformed to goodness. And he again repeats his words, and this time he's been crying more because apparently he wasn't feeling that the Rebbe is answering his dilemma. And then the Rebbe looks up and says, you want to bring Marash Chayre into this room? Do you think that Marash Chayre will help your daughter get better? And the Rebbe again repeated, it's the month of Adar, and the Rebbe made with his hands, V'nahapichu. Everything will be transformed for revealed goodness. And the Yechidus concluded. He walks out of the Rebbe's room, all overwhelmed of this experience he just now had, those few short minutes in the Rebbe's room, and he starts recollecting his thoughts, and he can't imagine. He walked out of the Rebbe, but he doesn't have his answer. He has to get back to the doctors. What method are they going to use for the healing? He runs into Maskiris to Rabbi Grunner, and mentioning Rabbi Grunner, we take this opportunity to join with Chassidim the world over and wishing Harav Yehudalei b'menucha rachel refuah shleima ukreva. Take it from Yad Mamish now. He walks into Rabbi Grunner and he asks that he must go again into the Rebbe. Rabbi Grunner says, you can't do that. If you want, you can write a note. He goes into the small zal, he writes a note asking the Rebbe, should I operate, or should we operate, or should we use other methodology, other medical methods? Rabbi Grunner takes the zettel, and a short while later, the Rebbe responds, I've already answered him to his question. Now he was totally overwhelmed. He needs a clear answer. So he tells Rabbi Grunner, I still don't have an answer. Rabbi Grunner says, I can only repeat to you, I don't know what the Rebbe told you in Yechidus. That you have to know. I'm just repeating to you what the Rebbe answered to your question. If you have any other questions, you can write to the Rebbe. He writes again, and the Rebbe this time responds that if you insist on asking, then the guidance is to consult with another doctor and do according to the majority of doctors' opinions. He asks Rabbi Grunner, what does the Rebbe mean if you insist to ask? Rabbi Grunner says, I can't tell you, I'm only repeating to you the Rebbe's words. Maybe you should have asked, you shouldn't have asked, but this is what the Rebbe answered. He consulted with a family doctor who he knew for many years before, and that doctor suggested to go ahead with the operation. They went to Boston, one of the biggest hospitals, and over there they scheduled the operation. The day of the operation came, was great tension, great anxiousness to see what will happen with the turn of events. It was very, very critical. The operation began, and after a while, when they're sitting in the waiting room, suddenly the door bursts open, the doctors come running in, they're beyond themselves, and they share that they actually opened up, and there is no tumor. Parents were beyond themselves. They could not imagine what they're hearing. No tumor. so can we go see our daughter? I said, no, it's time. It takes time for her to recuperate and to get back to herself. An hour, 2, 3, many hours passed. The doctors say she hasn't woken up yet. It was a bit unusual, but not extraordinary unusual, until night fell and the morning came around and she still hasn't woken up. Here the doctors were beyond themselves and they said, well, this can happen and there's no way we can tell when she will wake up. He began rethinking the turn of events and reflecting on the answers he got from the Rebbe, in which the Rebbe said, "V'nahapechu," and the Rebbe said to believe in the supernatural. I should have picked up on those messages. I should have acted on it. He then, it's a bit of a longer story, just getting to the summary of the story because it's connected to Pesach. A short while later, she did wake up, and here there was a bit of a loss of memory, and the doctor said things will come back as time goes on, and they were suggesting to do other treatments to speed up her recovery. And here they recognized already they're not doing any moves without going to the Rebbe. It was right before Pesach. It was decided that she would stay with her in the hospital and he would go to New York to be by the Rebbe for Pesach. They had a relative in Flatbush, and Achron Shel Pesach, he came to Sudas Mashiach to be by the Rebbe's Farbrengen on Achron Shel Pesach. In the middle of the Farbrengen, he's sitting there in the crowd, and suddenly the Chassidim near him, he didn't understand much. He was originally from France, and France or Morocco, I'm not sure. Originally it was Morocco, and then he moved to France, and he didn't really understand much. But at one point, the Chassidim are telling him, the Rebbe is calling on you. And the Rebbe called him up, and the Rebbe handed him a piece of matzah from the Rebbe's matzah. And the Rebbe said, matzah, the Zohar says, is michla das vasa, food of healing. This is for your daughter. Then the Rebbe took another piece of matzah, and the Rebbe gave him and said, matzah is known in the Zohar as nichla de mehemnusa, food of faith and emunah. This is for you. Your daughter need not suffer for your lack of emunah. He was very overwhelmed, and he couldn't even understand what the Rebbe was saying. And when the Maskirim explained it and responded, gave it back to him, and everyone jumped to him to know the details. But luckily, he sat down. The Farbrengen continued, and he was very shaken with the words of the Rebbe. How the Rebbe is telling him the power of Emunah, the power of bitochen, how that could have literally avoided the entire experience he had with his daughter. The Farbrengen ended, and Keshe Bracha came around. And he goes up and gets Keshe Bracha from the Rebbe. And as he approaches the Rebbe, this time the Rebbe smiles at him. And the Rebbe was saying something to the effect that the Jews of Morocco have a special day, I don't remember the details, right after Pesach. And basically the Rebbe said the upcoming month is the month of Refuah. Iyur is Ani Hashem Refecha, but you can do of an Ahapechu. You can bring about the Ani Hashem Refecha prior to that and bring it here and now, and it should be a refuah for your daughter. She healed Baruch Hashem and established her own family with children and grandchildren. Today is a time where we all need to connect and recognize the power of Emunah, the power of bitochen. In the Rebbe's teachings, in the Rebbe's ignorance and countless sichos, the Rebbe is urging us to recognize it's not only to give us comfort, it's not only to give us peace of mind, it's not only to give us a calm perspective and an easy path when facing a challenge, but the Rebbe tells us it is crucial. It is something that has the power to transform something less than positive to make it extremely positive. Something that is, in the moment, seeming very dark, to bring on the greatest of light. How? With the power of bitochen, the power of Emunah. Trach gut wird sein gut is not a pisgam. It's not a nice idea, a nice concept. It is crucial to life. It literally brings about transformations. Miyogei l'simcha me'evel l'yontev. Literally, v'nahapechu oira v'simcha v'sasim vikar. Today more than ever, We all need to unite for ourselves, for our families, to be mighty strong in Emunah bitochen. We have perfect faith that the Eibush is a Kel Yochel and is not mugbal in any Levushi Teva. He created Teva. And He can bring about Yeshua's Hashem Keheref Ayin. Not can, but we perfectly believe that He will. And the Tanakh Good itself has the power, and especially when it is from the Rabbim. It is something that the Rebbe gives tremendous power to a Rabbim, and mentioning that in the time of Lamed Ches, when the Rebbe was not well, and the Chassidim sending well wishes to the Rebbe, and the Chassidim were davening the world over, the Rebbe then wrote a letter and said, Tfilas HaRabbim Amdali. A very powerful word. The Rebbe says the Tfilah of the Rabbim, this is what brought about the Yeshua then. So the Tfilah of Chassidim all over and Yidden the world over. And when it is fueled and imbued and empowered with a real bitochen as ved zayin good, we know that the Eibishter will transform all of this to Te'era v'simcha v'sasa v'ikar. It surely has the power and will bring about the Yerefuah and Yeshua l'chol ha'olam kulei, the ultimate Yeshua we should see. Moshiach shel Yisrael, the Rebbe be'his galus, Yavai v'yigoleinu v'yerichenu k'namius la'atseinu. Now, mamish, gut yontif and afreilich in